8 in the side. Welcome back to the channel. We've all done it. Jacked over another ball. Hit a relatively easy shot. And what do? We miss. We miscue. I'm going to give you some do's and don'ts of shooting over another ball today. I'll move it a little closer so I can explain a few things in detail. The first thing I want to talk about is the bridge. So we're kind of going to use a tripod type bridge, meaning we're going to use our index finger and our pinky to raise over the ball so we can hit the cue ball. We're going to make a V into the index finger with our thumb. We're going to use the two middle fingers for stabilization. So your bridge, looking at you, will look something like this. Now, a couple things. We are going to elevate our cue as little as possible, but enough that we're going to clear the first ball. We don't want to hit that first ball, obviously. So we want to make sure that we get enough of that cue ball for control purposes. Now, we want to make sure that we're hitting down on the cue ball, kind of like we hit from the rail. When the ball was frozen on the rail, if you haven't seen that video, please check it out. Frozen on the rail cue ball. All right, if you remember, we raise the butt of our cue and down and through the ball. It's going to be the same concept, but a little more severe. Now, as with hitting off the rail, we shortened up our bridge. So what did we do? We compensated by moving our backhand forward. We're going to have the same situation here. We're shortening up our bridge. So I don't want to hold the cue back and have a long cue stick. We're going to lose total control. We're going to end up putting unnecessary spin on the ball. And when we do that, we start getting into a masse or a swerve or a curve shot, which will be in a future video. That's going to be relatively similar. Would be if this was my object ball, I would have to kind of swerve around a ball to make that. Okay, so we are going to raise up. We're going to use extreme English, and we're going to make the object ball. Now we will, again, that is a future video. So in review, what I've covered thus far, we're going to shorten up our bridge. Our backhand has to compensate. We're going to have a tripod with stabilization, a V for a channel for the cue. We're going to look straight down the line. Now what I like to do first, and I use this on my jump shots as well, and again, that's going to be a future video. I have a lot of content I want to cover, but for now, look from behind the ball. This is my aiming point. So when I set my bridge, I am going right down that aiming point line. Now realize that you are putting topspin on this ball. So you don't, if that ball is dead straight in, you don't want to hit straight into it. Okay, we have to pick a side. Now, I subconsciously picked a side there because I'm so used to it. So again, get behind it, check out your aiming point, set your bridge, stable, a few practice strokes, just so we're making sure we're not touching that back ball. We want to make sure. Now, we're actually going to force this cue ball slightly into the felt, into the slate to make this ball. So our follow through will end up slightly below the surface of the ball that we're jacking over or shooting over. Okay? So I'm going to show you how this shot is done. And then I'm going to show you a few drills we can use from beginners or just every day, just go through this. This is something that can decide a game. We're all faced with this situation. We need to be able and not be afraid to shoot over another ball. We need to have the confidence to do that. And it just takes, as you know, shoot balls. And I'm going to show you a drill that I do. It's very simple, doesn't take a lot of time, but it will raise your confidence. All right, so the first thing is obviously, let's make sure we chalk up. We're not using a lot of the tip surface, so you want to make sure that you're properly chalking up. We'll get into that in a later video as well. And again, I want my aiming point. I want to set my bridge, a few practice strokes. I'm looking straight down the line of the cue. I'm going to pick a side of my object ball because again, I am putting front spin on the ball. I don't want to follow it into the pocket. Aiming point, and I'm going to hit slightly down on the ball. There you go. All right, so a couple drills we can use. I'm going to adjust the camera slightly so we can get a little better effect. As with the frozen on the rail shots, I like to use my striped balls. Reason being, I like to see my rotation. So what I'll do is I can use my cue ball as the ball that I'm hitting over. So what I can do, obviously chalk up, get these all out of the way. And I'm going to line that straight up. I'll show you a couple variations to this drill. So you should see relatively a pretty straight, kind of like a tire rolling on the stripe of the ball. Again, same mechanics, you really have to think about it. The biggest thing we do, sometimes we squeeze that backhand, and that's going to cause us to miscue. So we want to make sure we're nice and loose with that backhand as well. So I got my aiming point, and all we're going to do is just pocket balls. Pocket, pocket, pocket. And then of course we're going to increase the difficulty and we're going to go long rails. I'll probably go this way for effect, just so you can see the rotation. So what I would do is I get my aiming point, a few practice strokes, looking down, and bring my next ball into play. Again, it does not take very long. Take your time with this drill. Stay down on the shot. See how my Q-tip is below the surface of this ball? That's what we want. Now, another variation, and something you will be faced with. It's a little easier shot, but we still need to practice it. If you are jacked or stroking over another ball, but it's close to the rail. So the rail is going to give us a little lift. So what we have to watch is really getting too extreme with it. So when you are bridging on the rail, you can kind of relax your cue a little bit. But the biggest thing is make sure we're on a downward motion. Again, if we are not, that's when we get our miscues or we put unnecessary spin on the ball. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. So what this would look like, okay, looking down the line, These are things that you can practice on your own time. I'm not going to go through a whole series of them. Going to hit a couple more. Straight down the line. Again, you should see that rotation. And we'll show you what a bad shot looks like. Again, tripod. I'm using my two middle fingers as stabilization. I have a channel for my cue. I am stable, looking down the line, a slight downward angle on the ball, hitting center of the cue of the object ball, not putting any unnecessary spin. Stay down on the shot. Stay down on the shot. Now what does that look like if I put some unnecessary spin? Now a close shot like this might not be affected as much as a longer shot. But if I would put some unnecessary spin on it, you can see how it moved to this portion. I put some right spin on it. Okay, that's how we masse. That's how we swerve or curve a ball. Now we can do the same drill from a long rail. And again, we'll be able to see the rotation, longer shot, using my cue ball as the ball that I'm hitting over. Trying to line that straight up for you, just to give you a good idea. Again, we should see a pretty straight, like a tire rolling on this 10 ball. Again, I have my angle, my aiming point. I'm going to set my bridge, stable, couple practice strokes, looking straight down the shaft, and you saw a pretty true roll. Okay. Again, you can move it back, and you can hit from the rail, which again, flatten out the cue ever so slightly and hit the ball into the corner. Now I'm going to give you a drill that I love to do. You don't necessarily need any ball in particular. You just pick one out. And what you're going to do is you're going to use that ball as the ball you're hitting over. And all you're going to do is you're going to hit into a different pocket, raised over a ball. Okay? Pick that ball up. Set it again. Doesn't matter. Take your time, slightly through, down the shaft. We can hit any shot that we want. Any shot that we want. Just keep moving around the table. Go for a record. See how many you can make in a row. 20, 30, 40, 80, 100 in a row, whatever the case may be. Now the final thing that we want to look at is shooting at another ball. Now I mentioned that we're putting top spin on the ball. So I'm gonna set a ball here, and this is part of the drill as well. I'm gonna actually use my cue ball. You can start this shorter. Just put it in the pocket, put it wherever you want. We can do our drill from here. We can pull it back, use the rail, but hitting over another ball. We can use a long rail or a longer stroke, a longer shot. Now realize, if you hit from a longer distance and you put any unnecessary spin on the ball, it is going to be amplified. So it is going to swerve more. So let's make sure we're hitting, and that's why we use these strike balls, to make sure that we are hitting true. Just to make sure that our stroke is in line. So you can do this from wherever. Again, remember, we're putting top spin on the ball. You're going to have to pick a side of your object ball to hit. Make sure you get your aim point. Make sure you're nice and stable, and you're going to hit down through the ball and make your object ball. I hope this was helpful to you, whatever level of player you are. Practice, practice, practice. You know me, I like to just shoot balls, make, that's why this is one of my favorite drills. Just, you know, I can make 20 balls in, you know, a minute if I have to. It doesn't matter, I just keep moving them around. I get comfortable shooting over another ball. Now, if you're just a beginner, what you might want to do for this drill is when you're doing it, whatever the drill may be, put a second ball in between, kick it out, and practice just shooting over a ball with some space in between. Okay, so if you're just beginning at this game, which, hey, we're all at different levels, don't make it too difficult. Don't go with the most difficult shot right away. Get used to shooting over a ball with some space. And then once you get good at that, maybe put a piece of chalk in between and use that distance to shoot. And then when you get proficient at that, then let's tighten it up. Because you're going to be faced with this shot, okay, where they're frozen and you have to shoot over the ball. Now, one thing I do want to mention, and I know it wasn't one of my stronger videos, the coronavirus. I want to make sure all of us stay healthy. Let's do our part. We have a lot of things happening. President Trump put a ban, travel from Europe, things like that. The NBA shut it down for a while. We have soccer matches and things that have been canceled. We have the NCAA tournament, basketball tournament, not going to have fans. So again, if you haven't seen my coronavirus COVID-19 video, please check it out. Just some simple things that we do that we might not realize that we're doing when we're at the pool hall or at the grocery store or at a hotel if we're traveling to a tournament or something like that. Let's just make sure that we all stay healthy and are able to practice these drills and things like that. So again, I thank you for your support. Thank you for tuning in, and you know, practice, practice, practice. Hit some balls. Have a good one.